I picked Mark Pryor for a couple of reasons. One, he's a high-profile pitcher who broke down, and two, his mechanics produce more stress than anyone else I've been able to measure. We see a couple of things here. His arm is rotated inward totally at the shoulder, and then his hand is proceeding forward to pass his elbow to a point where, at this point, he is right behind his head. The white line you see here is a fixed point that we can use to measure both the direction and magnitude of his movement. What you can see here relative to the fixed point in space, that his hand is moving back, actually going backward, and as his elbow comes forward. At this point, as the elbow is moving forward, the hand is going back and down about a foot. If the shutter speed is 60 frames per second, that equates to about 15 miles per hour. That's 15 miles an hour back and away from the target. Here the ball stops and reverses as the shoulder begins its inward rotation and the elbow starts its extension. This is leverage force on the medial ligament and shoulder. Since the fulcrum is very close, about an inch from the attachment, the leverage is about 18 to 20 to 1. Even if the camera speed is 24 frames per second, it's still a significant force. If it's a force that can be avoided, it would be a tremendous advantage. What we see here is full extension at release and a significant body lean forward. That issue we'll address later. Here we have Dave Newton, who spent 6 years in the Giants organization, has had 2 Tommy John surgeries, and has been told that he needs another. You'll see he's very similar to Pryor, both in the way he uses his body and his arm. His hand is under his elbow and proceeding to move forward and past the elbow to a point up behind his ear. Here the ball stops. The elbow drives forward as the ball goes backward, not quite as much as Pryor, until he gets to the point where he's ready to drive forward. From here, the release is much like that of Pryor. Now let's take a look at Lincecum's arm action and see how it compares with that of Pryor. The arm takes a wide arc with continuous acceleration. Here the arm is behind and level with the elbow and continuing its acceleration forward. Here the hand is still behind the elbow and the ball is still moving forward. Here Lincecum's hand is still moving forward and it's well behind the elbow. At this point of maximum shoulder rotation outward, Lincecum's hand is moving forward about 20 miles per hour. Instead of back towards second base like Pryor. At the point of release, the glove is tucked in tight to shorten the radius of the left arm, and the line across his shoulders is straight. The arm is fully extended to maximize the radius of his throwing arc. Now I'd like you to look at Juan Marichal, mainly because he has the most stress-free mechanics I've been able to video. His arm swing is long and he smoothly accelerates all the way to the release point. Of the hundreds of discussions I've had and clinics I've attended, I don't think I've ever heard a pitching coach advocate breaking with the palms out. But here we have Marichal doing just that. When you get here, you can clearly see that his palm is still facing outward. Again, in all of the discussions I've been involved with, I don't recall anyone advocating this position with the palm under the ball and the humerus rotated outward. It's always been, and the consensus has been, palm to the second base, which rotates the humerus inward. Marichal approaches this position with the shoulder already rotated outward and the ball moving forward toward the plate. Again, I'll use Pryor as an example. When he reaches this point, his palm is facing out, which rotates his shoulder almost all the way inward. Then, as the ball is moving backward towards second base and the elbow is accelerating forward, with the humerus rotating outward, they both rapidly change directions and accelerate the other way. These are two stress points clearly avoided by Juan Marichal. I'd like to try to make one more point using Mariano Rivera and contrasting him with Mark Pryor. Body lean forward at release has always been considered a necessity, and some probably is. But distance to accelerate is a factor, because it takes less force to reach speed with a longer acceleration distance. As you can see here, Pryor's distance to accelerate is shorter than the more upright Rivera. As a result, the acceleration forces would have to be greater. The trunk and legs contribution to the production of velocity and the reduction of stress on the shoulder and elbow can be measured. Extending the knee adds momentum, directs the momentum away from the pivot point, and adds time to lengthen the distance to accelerate the arm and hand. The longer distance to accelerate reduces the stress of the acceleration. The degree to which the hand gets ahead of the elbow before release and the amount and direction of the hand and arm's momentum at maximum outward rotation of the shoulder is a measurable indicator of a pitcher's potential for injury. Given that my material is crude and I'm probably just scratching the surface, the evidence is such that it has practical use in at least 3 different areas. First, you could identify potential problems. For example, with proper video angles and shutter speed, the potential for injury can be measured. Second, with the same video, potential for improvement can also be measured. And third, by identifying stress areas, change can be made to reduce the probability of injury. And lastly, if you've gotten this far, thank you very much. If you have comments or suggestions, my contact information is here.